council for deliberation and action on this item. Am I going to kick it off?
Congratulations.
All right, no lights on this. All right, I will start. First of all, thanks to the speakers, because the time limits were respected for the most part, and I really do appreciate that. Yeah, and then they pop up. I don't usually get to start. I also want to thank Councilmember Perry for having the courage to bring it up, and also to present a nice wide array of options. It's not something I think we're very familiar with. A lot of times we have, an idea and then an alternative, and here's something really for us to kind of play around with, and I hope we all kind of get our ideas out there. I'm compelled by the speakers, I have to tell you. I mean, looking over the options and thinking about the issue over the last, probably 4 or 5 or 6 months since Mr. Lustig sat down with me. It's very compelling and obviously important that we're talking about it, but I hope that we can do a little bit more than talk about it and actually take some action that's meaningful. And my preference, of course, would be that we move forward with the concept and the principle of this idea, and I hope that we can also negotiate particular interests or concerns that people have. One of the things that came up at the League of Cities conference by one of the speakers, and many of us were there, was the mayor of Washington, D.C., who talked about our role as leaders and how 90 or 80, said 80% of the time, maybe in our case it's 90% of the time we're sort of doing the process, kind of like we did tonight. We're talking about zoning and we're approving housing or businesses, and every once in a while we're, doing new sewer lines, etc. We're doing what we do, and then about 10% of the time we lead. And I think in many cases we're elected and asked and urged to do what we're supposed to do. And in many cases, we're asked to lead. And I think that's what's so compelling about this issue. And being the first city in the county, we have an historic opportunity to lead. Whichever way we go, we will lead this county. That's an inevitability. I mean, we're talking about it. We're going to deal with it. And I think that puts Mountain View in an enviable position. We should be proud of this discussion and wherever we end up, because we are putting it out there. And it's thanks to folks who push the envelope. And it's thanks to Councilmember Perry for teeing it up for us. And so I am concerned about the conflict between state and federal law. I went to the seminar on marijuana dispensaries at the conference. It's a real conflict for city attorneys, and I do not envy them. Cities very large with huge city attorney staffs aren't sure what to do with this when our state attorney general says hooey to the Supreme Court. It's not a normal circumstance for us. The Supreme Court typically is the law of the land. They make a decision. Our attorney general said sorry, and then the CHP director said, and by the way, don't prosecute or enforce this law. So we are stuck in a strange position, which leads me towards one of the options about accepting in principle and letting the state and county work it out. I'm also compelled by the concepts of looking at other jurisdictions with experience, be it Hayward or be it San Francisco. One of the concerns that I think may come up, and I'm go ahead and address it early, is the concept of safety. The idea that marijuana dispensaries might be havens for crime or subject to robbery, as has been the experience in other jurisdictions. And I'm not sure if you got this idea. I wish I could claim it for my own. But a constituent wrote this morning, and this is why I posed the question in our police services, is what about locating it in the police department? It's a profound idea that certainly might mitigate the attempts to rob such a dispensary. And it's the reason, excuse me, let me finish. It's the reason, the chief isn't smiling. It's the reason I asked, has there been a robbery in the police department? And he said no, but then the vice mayor, who's been around a little longer, said there was a break-in of the police department one time. So that may shoot a hole in it. But I know that safety might be a concern. But the novelty of this concept of locating it, A, in the police department, and B, near public transportation, which seems to be a major issue for folks that need it, is profound. So I'd like to throw that out there. I have no idea what you guys are going to do with this one. In fact, I don't have an idea where you are, because the way you framed your options makes me wonder, did you tee it up to smash it down or not? So with that, I may come back, but I want to let you know where I am. Plunging way ahead, being the first, frankly, in 2 counties, because most of these folks are heading, through San Mateo County to go to San Francisco. So we're talking about millions and millions of people. So hopefully we can take the lead on this issue and use this historic opportunity. I will start with the vice mayor and go to my left.
Okay, for me, it's not about the legitimacy of whether or not the need exists for people that really have a medical condition that is alleviated by the use of marijuana. That's not the issue for me, and I do understand the people that have talked this evening in reference to individually what it may have done for them personally, the use of medical marijuana. For me, the issue is the impact on our community. My personal background goes back to when Mountain View was the regional area for a methadone clinic, and I'm not trying to associate the two because obviously, in my opinion, the clientele would be different. But the types of problems that surrounded that type of a facility are somewhat similar. One of the things that I noted in the proposer's write-up, I'm quoting now, it says, "The police are not usually big supporters of medical marijuana. They will have you believe that medical marijuana dispensaries are detrimental to the community. They will cite anything from vagrancy to robbery as being problematic." That's outside the quote. There have been some instances that have occurred at some existing dispensaries. We well understand that safety and security are very important. It is not true that medical marijuana dispensaries are in any way detrimental to the community. I have an article that I would like to read some excerpts from, appeared in the San Francisco Chronicle. It relates to dispensaries. About a half a dozen dispensaries apparently operate in the county area between San Leandro and Hayward. The article says there has been a rash of armed robberies, a shootout that left one robber dead, and the possible attempted hit on a worker who had cooperated with the police in the investigation, I suppose. This is a quote now in the article, "I don't think this is what the voters had in mind when they passed the medical pot law, but that's what we're having to deal with," said the Alameda County Sheriff's Office. The motivation behind the robberies is to get cash, which is very common at a dispensary of this nature, and the marijuana product itself. They relate here a summary of incidents that have occurred in recent months. The first big hit went down on Super Bowl Sunday, February 6th, at the Compassionate Collective of Alameda County, a medical marijuana club on Mission Boulevard near San Leandro. According to the sheriff's reports, a team of armed hoods busted in, tied up everyone, robbed the place of about $50,000 in cash and an undisclosed amount of the product. The bandits didn't get away, though, because as they were leaving, they were apprehended by the Hayward police. Last month, one of the same club's employees, while pulling into the parking lot, spied a masked person hiding in the bushes. No sooner did the worker step on the gas, the masked figure stepped out and fired 4 rounds at the car that was trying to leave. The worker plowed through a cyclone fence in order to get away. Another occurred on August the 5th at another location where 3 armed robbers burst into the nearby Hayward Patient Resource Center. Again, everyone was ordered to hit the floor, and again the robbers cleaned out all the cash, took the drugs, all they could grab. It was the second armed robbery of the club within 3 months. Only this time, an employee hit a silent alarm, so the Hayward police were waiting for the robbers as they came out the door, and in that instance, there was a safe conclusion with their arrest. The outcome was much bloodier on August 19th at a third club, the Natural Resource on Foothill Boulevard in the unincorporated San Leandro area. This time, 5 men, several of them armed with pistols and semi-automatic rifles, dropped down from the roof behind the workers as they were arriving to open the club.